The era of 2D was at its end. It was time for something new, something different, which nobody had ever really used. And Nintendo was one of the first to do it with the new console, the N64, with 3D graphics instead of the usual 2D. Now this brought new challenges and also new options for the game developers. And this was also the moment Mario started a completely new adventure. Super Mario 64, the very first full 3D Mario game ever. Now this Mario game tried a lot of new things, and some of the things ended up perfectly and others didn't really work and got scrapped. Let's have a look at some of those scrapped features. First up, a couple of removed enemies and items that were planned to appear in the game but never made it in. An eyeless, untextured model for Blarg, an enemy from Super Mario World, exists in the game. Blargs are large dinosaurs commonly found inhabiting pools of lava in underground caverns. Originally, Blargs resembled lazy-eyed lava dragons, but Yoshi's story depicts them as blob-like beings with large mouths, small arms and beady eyes. While numerous other games involve an assortment of similar blob-like derived species. The unfinished model in Super Mario 64 has animations that show it floating in and jumping out of lava, but there doesn't seem to be any real functionality. It was probably meant to be in the level Lethal Lava Land, but for some reason it never made it in. Besides enemies, there were also some items scrapped, the first one being some sort of trampoline. There isn't a model for it in-game though. Its behavior was coded, but said code never worked properly, and thus never affected Mario. They were probably experimenting with this feature, but like I said, the coding didn't really work properly, and this might be the reason why it was scrapped. Mario 64 was the very first 3D Mario game after all, so it was a lot of testing and trying.
Another thing that went unused were animations, textures, and a model for an actual Yoshi egg. In Super Mario 64, Yoshi plays a very minor role. If Mario manages to acquire all 120 power stars, a cannon outside the castle becomes accessible, which can be used to shoot Mario onto the roof of Princess Peach's castle. There, the player can speak to Yoshi, who congratulates the player for completing the game by delivering a message from the developers, and then rewards Mario with 100 extra lives and an improved triple jump. After that, Yoshi jumps off of the castle roof and cannot be spoken to again unless the game's restarted. They probably saw that Yoshi was a popular companion in Super Mario World and wanted to include him in the new game Mario 64. But the N64 era was an uncertain time and nobody really knew what they were doing. It was all new to them. Maybe they wanted to put Yoshi in some levels, but for some reason it didn't work out. Or it might be that they had problems programming him and working stuff out with the physics so that Mario could use him as a companion once again. This would explain why we see him in the game but can't do anything with him except talking. So the developers made an unlockable secret out of him. There are also some strange things in a couple of levels in the final game. In the game, there are 2 coins which can be seen but cannot be collected without using glitches. The first one's located in Snowman's Land. It is a solitary coin stuck inside the snowman at the wooden path at the side where you would climb it up. It may have been forgotten about by the developers during a level redesign, or simply ended up there by mistake. However, it can be collected through a physics exploit by firing the cannon at a precise corner of the wall nearby. The second example is Tiny Huge Island, while the island is tiny. This one is very clearly a mistake, as the coin slope is flatter than the actual slope, causing it to submerge into the terrain. Normally, only the first coin, counting from the bottom, is visible. The second one cannot be seen, but is still collectible because its collision box peaks very slightly outside. The third coin, however, is unobtainable, by normal means. It can be collected by first clipping inside the water-filled mountain at the top of the island, then using a frame-perfect physics exploit that includes jumping while exiting a body of water sideways.
Now besides coins, they also forgot something else. They made a little mistake with one of the Goombas. These Goombas belong to the same object, a Goomba trio object. Goombas spawned from this object appear in the triangle layout. But in this case, the position of the third Goomba in the triangle is just outside of the platform. This causes the third Goomba to spawn on the bottom of the stage, and subsequently instantly vanish after 1 frame, as it's too far away from Mario for the game to draw it. This causes the third Goomba to spawn on the bottom of the stage, and subsequently instantly vanish after 1 frame, as it's too far away from Mario for the game to draw it. It's also impossible to reach. A Goomba becomes disabled, invisible and intangible if Mario's outside the Goomba's radius, and the whole trio despawns completely if Mario exits the spawner object's radius. Thus there is no location, except for the very first frame where the Goomba is both loaded, visible and tangible. So in no time this Goomba blinks out of existence and is just gone. This is probably something the developers didn't expect, and because the Goomba disappears in 1 frame, you almost don't notice it. And so this Goomba is doomed to fade away every time. Mario 64 was a bit of an experimental game. No one was used to working in a 3D space when it came to video games. Well, not in the way of Mario 64 at least. You can see this in the game. They tried all kinds of things. Some worked out great, and some totally didn't.
Don't be that Goomba and stomp our subscribe button to get weekly updates on our videos. Or click the video to watch your last take on the Ocarina of Time beta. Just don't get lost out of bounds, okay?